Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. Yes, the new Audi S5 Sportback. And I'm going to address one big elephant in the room, and that isn't this paintwork or the size of the thing, because this thing weighs 1800 kilos and is almost 4.8 meters long. And that's pretty ordinary for a saloon type car. No, the big elephant in fact is the engine. This is a diesel powered car. Yes, you heard me right, a diesel. Now that sounds mad. Yes, I know it does, because this is an Audi S product, but there's good reasoning behind it, and I'm going to actually explain. But let's get the bonnet open and talk a little bit more about the beast within. Now, don't let the plastics fool you guys, because beneath this is a 3-litre V6 turbocharged diesel engine, of course. Now, this produces 350 brake horsepower and a whopping 700 newton meters of torque. I know, sounds mad, right? But listen to this. Audi have also electrified this model. They've actually put a 48 volt hybrid system in, and that system doesn't really make any more power, doesn't contribute to any of that. It's more to get around the EU regulations. But what is funny is that they fitted an electric motor within the compressor housing of the turbo, and that does help with power. It actually keeps the boost rolling even more further through the rev range. And yeah, the figures speak for themselves. 155 mile an hour top speed, 0 to 62 in 4.9 seconds, and it still does 40 litres a gallon on the WLTP cycle. Crazy, I know. And that is one reason why I think that they've gone the right way putting a diesel engine in this car. But enough of that, let's get into the interior and have even more surprises. Let's go. Yes guys, the best bit of an Audi review is of course the interior. Now, yeah, this is so good, especially these seats. You've got forward control, so of course if you're of the older category and you like to kiss your steering wheel, you can do so. Audi's got your back. And then if you want to be a baller, not like me, I'm not much of a baller, you can sit all the way back pretty much into the rear passenger seat behind me. And then if you want to go to sleep, or yeah, you're just a little bit tired because you've been doing all them business meetings, you can quite happily set your seat all the way back. And that's not it, because you can actually massage as well. Of course, being an Audi driver, you're a busy guy, you need massage, but you've got no time to stop. Yeah, the S5 sorts you right out. Of course, there's no happy endings, but hey, who needs one of them? And yeah, everything is just designed with a purpose. It really has. Like, the carbon fibre in here is lovely, it's trimmed very nicely, and the car's not lashed with buttons everywhere where you need a manual to figure out what everything does. It's all ergonomically pleasing, should I say. And yeah, the thing with me is interior reviews are quite weird, because yeah, what can you say about an interior? Audi just says it all by just looking at it. It's brilliant. It really is. I love it. Of course, we've got the virtual cockpit, which is new to me. I've never actually experienced it before, and most modern cars are going in the way of digital, and yeah, I'm very for it. Very for it indeed. Of course, I'm not too sure about this 10-inch screen that they've put in place, because the virtual cockpit kind of omits the reason to have that. But of course, the infotainment system is superb as well. The maps are very responsive. Zooming in, there is no delay whatsoever. And of course, it houses all your normal stuff like your telephone connectivity, and obviously a place where you can bang out all your tunes. Speaking of tunes, this car is opted with the Bang & Olufsen system. Now, I've not actually heard a standard Audi system, so I can't comment on the difference between them both, but I'd probably take or leave it, especially for me with owning a BMW. I actually prefer the Harman Kardon system, just because getting into the car, you don't have to do any setting up with the Harman Kardon, whereas this, I think you have to fine tune it to your taste. What I'm not so keen on is some of the safety features that Audi is lavishly equipped optionally in this car. For starters, I hate the adaptive cruise control. Why couldn't they have just given me normal cruise control? It just really is a little bit of a naff gimmick, to be fair. And of course, they call it predictive cruise control, but in reality it's called adaptive cruise control. And it basically has lasers in the front where it can predict distances with the car in front and basically do the speed that you want it to without being too far up the person's bumper, which is quite ironic because that's the Audi driver forte. Hey. But enough of that, let's jump in the back and see what headroom's like, because of course this is a saloon car, so yeah, it's probably going to be a little bit tricky on the headroom, but for me, I'm a midget, so it doesn't really matter. Let's go and have a look.
The Audi offers plenty of rear legroom and headroom, especially for myself being under 6 foot. But for those vertically challenged, I imagine it will be a bit more of a struggle, especially with Audi's opted panoramic roof. Nevertheless, a big thumbs up from me. Let's move on to the boot and see if the practicality continues.
Now, for me to demonstrate a boot size, I really just have to get in the boot to show you what the size really is like, because I could just do the normal thing of shoving luggage into a boot, but that doesn't really give you the sense of size on camera. Now, Audi say that this boot is 430 litres with the seats up, but for some reason they didn't want to share the information about when the seats are down. But I can tell you guys that for a saloon car, this is a very big boot. In terms of within its class and its rivals, I couldn't tell you, I'm sorry. But the thing I can tell you is that it is let down very slightly by this big lip. Now, of course, when you have big luggage or just big items in general, it will become a bit of a tiresome exercise to get things in and out the boot. But to be fair, most saloon cars on the market nowadays have this very issue. But let's forget about issues now, because let's get onto the driving, because this is what this car is all about, getting on some roads and absolutely thrashing it. Not literally, I mean just driving it spiritedly, that's what I mean. That sounds better. But yeah, let's get on to driving. Now, let's bring it full circle, seeing as we're inside the car, back to the engine, because that is, I think, the biggest selling point to this car. Now, yes, as I said before, it is a diesel, but yeah, you can argue whether they should have used a diesel engine or continued using petrol, or you could argue the other way around, and I'd say the latter, because I really love this diesel engine. I'm a really big fan of big diesel engines used in cars like these, because it offers not only in this car luxury, but it offers really good fuel economy. It gives a better all-roundness to the car, if that makes sense, especially when you consider that Audi also provide an RS range which use petrol engines. So if you put it into that perspective, Audi have made themselves a wider audience. You get someone that's still a petrol head, but they've kind of got in the back of their mind that they don't really want to run an RS6, for example, or an RS5 every day, because you'll just be living in the petrol station. It'll become your second home. Whereas with this, you can easily get 500 miles on a tank. And yes, okay, diesel is just as expensive as petrol, but you're getting more bang for your buck. Now, as I said earlier, you get almost 40 to the gallon using the WLTP cycle. Of course, myself, I haven't really been achieving that, because yes, the right foot has been a little bit gung-ho. But if you're really trying, you've also got 4 drive modes to choose from as well, through the Audi's iconic drive select mode. So of course you've got efficiency, which says what it does on the tin. It basically provides you the best way of getting the most out of your diesel. Then you have comfort, which again basically makes the car an all-rounder to use really as an everyday. So if you're commuting to work and back, comfort is the way to go, which I'm currently in at the minute. We will switch things up shortly. Then you've got auto, which, to be honest, I don't actually really understand what the difference between comfort and auto is. Yeah, so I'm not going to say too much more about that. And then finally you've got dynamic mode, which basically puts the car into full track mode as such, even though this is a big heavy lump. It's quite funny to say, yeah, it makes the car very sporty. And I must say, which we'll do that right now actually, dynamic. So not only does it sharpen up the steering, it makes it look a lot more weighted, as it is an electric assisted rack. It also makes the throttle response a lot more sharper as well. And of course this car is spec'd with adaptive suspension, so the car already feels tight as it is in corners, but when you've got it in dynamic, it really is on point through corners. It's just amazing. This car really does hide its weight rather well. And then of course the suspension itself. Now I own a 335D, and I have to say that the ride can be at times very firm, if not bumpy. Of course I have the added complaint with the BMW that you get quite a lot of body roll into corners, whereas with this, the Audi, you get none of it. If not, you don't even notice any body roll. And that is actually a real shame, because it's making me want this over the BMW now, and that's quite frightening, because this is a lot more expensive compared to it. But I won't talk too much on the price just yet. So of course this is fitted with Audi's adaptive suspension, which of course is an optional extra in this car. And I have to say it's definitely well worth it. Any road you take it on, whether it's a B, A or even a motorway, it really does comply on the road very well. It's actually riding on low profile tyres as well, believe it or not. And it is absolutely spectacular. And as I said, through corners, it's so flat. And of course, I've even had that from a passenger perspective when I helped good friend Aaron from Car Obsession film the S4 and 335D comparison when we was driving both cars back to back. Well, I didn't get the opportunity to at the time, but you could feel that the Audi expressed more confidence when driving, spiritedly. It really did. And of course, believe it or not as well, this car actually weighs 200 kilos more than the 335D, and the 335D that I have is the touring variant. So Audi have managed to hide the weight and the size of this thing extremely well, really have. And coming back to the suspension, yes, I couldn't think of anything better riding wise than this, to be fair. And with the 3-litre engine, the way it sounds, like there is so much acoustic reduction in here that you can't hear the engine, but Audi have pumped in some sounds so you can hear an engine, if that makes sense. Yes, it's obviously artificial, but it gives the car character. It really does. And in this very car, they've not only chucked sound inside the cabin, they've also done it on the outside, so someone from the outside can actually hear an exhaust note, which is crazy from a diesel. And the exhaust note isn't too chavvy as well, it's quite subtle. It gives off like a deep growly V8 kind of noise. I'll obviously put that into the video right now so you can hear it for yourself. And of course, now being in dynamic, you can sharpen that sound up so it goes to its loudest as possible. And speaking back to driving modes, because I've just literally got sidetracked with it, you can also have an added option of customizing the way your Audi, the way you want to drive your Audi. So I can have a look in here right now actually. So I can set it into individual mode, and then you can edit the drive system, the suspension, the steering, and of course the engine sound. And it's, I love that about cars, especially nowadays with modern technology. It gives you, the owner, ways of interacting with your car a little bit more. Instead of just choosing a drive mode that someone has developed, you can customize how you want your steering to feel, or how you want it to ride on a road. If you want it a little bit more sporty and firm, you can do so, or if you want it to be a bit softer and not breaking your back, you can do that. And I really do enjoy that. And of course, we spoke about the interior a little bit earlier on, but whilst you're driving, you feel at one with the car. You're so comfortable. every journey you make, whether it's 10 miles or 100 miles, you get out and you feel really refreshed. And that's of course helped by lots of the modern gadgets that are in the car, including massage seats. Yes, massage seats, they are really, really handy, especially when you've maybe gone to the gym and you're trying to recover. Whack on the old massage seat and there you go, Bob's your uncle, Fanny's your aunt. But everything also, as well, as I mentioned earlier, is everything is thought out. There's not anything that seems out of place in this car. And again, considering with cars nowadays, things just seem to be going absolutely mental. We've obviously got electric cars around the corner, but technology has grown even more, and it's starting to overwhelm the user. When you're driving, it kind of takes that feeling away. Whereas I think there's a balance in here that allows you to still enjoy the drive, but have creature comforts that you're used to in your everyday life. And of course, most manufacturers are offering a very premium luxury saloon car nowadays. You've got, of course, Audi, you've got BMW, you've even got Ford and Alfa Romeo, the list goes on. And as a price point, this car as a base car costs £50,000. Of course, you'd be silly not to put some optional extras on it, because yeah, you need some on this car. But this very car has £20,000 worth of options, and it's really a big shame, because in hindsight, when I look at this car, a lot of the options on here I probably wouldn't pay, like the heads-up display. That's £1,000 on its own. And then you've got the little details like the wheels. They're matte titanium optional extra wheels that cost £2,500. So of course you've got the options to play with the spec list, and yeah, you can have the choice of going absolutely gung-ho with options on your Audi, or you can be quite subtle and don't choose as much. And also with cars nowadays, you can get carried away with all sorts of stuff. Technology is growing, and yeah, the idea of having the biggest and best stuff in your car is, yeah, quite appealing. But with this car costing £50,000 as base, it doesn't seem too bad. It seems quite reasonable in all honesty, especially with the likes of inflation kicking us in the nuts at the minute, and then the pandemic that's happened the last few months, that's pushing all sorts of nasty little things into the equation. So yeah, £50,000 doesn't sound too bad, but of course that's for a base S5. Now, you're not gonna sit there and have a base S5, are you really? You're gonna put some options on it. And for example, this car has £20,000 worth of options. Now that seems absolutely ridiculous, because it really is. And there's a lot of stuff on here that I'd probably do away with, like the heads-up display. I really don't understand what's everyone's obsession with a heads-up display, especially when you've got a virtual cockpit in front of you, which is absolutely sublime. But yeah, you really can get carried away, and Audi is, yeah, one of the corporates to that, unfortunately. But even still, at £70,000, yeah, you get what you pay for, and that is quality. It really is. I haven't got a thought about anything inside or outside the car. Even the outside of the car, it is an absolute looker. Yes, of course, the front slopes down a little bit too much. It's almost got a frown on its face, but that is for the reason being because, yeah, we've got to look out for pedestrians in case you hit a pedestrian. Yeah, if you didn't know that, that's why. So yeah, the world is going mad, and forever it's kicking the car maker in the bollocks. And yeah, of course, electric cars are around the corner, as I've mentioned already. And personally, I sort of still a little bit optimistic to it, but it is coming. And yeah, when speaking about the engine at the beginning of the video, this has actually got some electrification solutions inside this car, and it's quite funny to think that, because apparently diesel engines are bad for the environment and bad for your health. But yeah, Audi have still managed to finesse their way into the market by providing big powered diesel engines. So yeah, they're obviously doing something right, and I have to applaud Audi for it, keeping things like this still alive in a world where it's going madder and madder as the day goes by. So I'm now at the point of the video where I want to finish up, because I want to try and keep this review short and sweet, says me, and we're probably 20 minutes in. But I want to answer the question that you guys are probably answering, is it really worth getting something like this over an RS product? And that's a hard question to answer, because of course, who wouldn't want an RS model, like an RS3, an RS4, an RS5, an RS6, an RS7? I don't even think they do an RS8. No, there isn't an RS8. Ignore me. I didn't even say that. So yeah, of course, you'd want something like that, because you get the added noise, which again, to be fair, is being killed with half a dozen filters that get put on the exhaust system. Even on this, I think this has about 3 or 4 different filters. Yeah. So yeah, the sound you lose, to be fair. So that's a big argument already. When you're looking at an RS model, even for myself, I want the noise. You want the soundtrack that comes from those exhausts, but you don't get it anymore. So this makes this car even more appealing, because it's a diesel, and Audi have managed to synthesize some noise anyway. And to be fair, it sounds just as good as an RS, to be fair. That sounds really bad to say. But yeah, to be fair, it is the truth. And then you look at the price bracket, you'd be paying probably 30 grand more base for an RS car. I'm not too sure on the figures as such, but you'd be paying a hell of a lot more. And then, of course, to run the thing, you'd be needing shares in Shell just to get petrol, because you'd be in there constantly. So even though the world's going mad with electric, I still really think that this car is still got a lot of relevance in this day and age, because you're getting a lot of bang for your buck. And yeah, trust me, I've lived with a car like this for 2.5 years now, and every time I still get in it, I enjoy it because of the versatility. You've got the practicality, you've got the fuel economy, you've got the sheer force of torque and power, and it never gets boring. It never does. And you'd think I'm mad saying that, we're sitting in just a German saloon car, or the 3 Series as such, and you'd think that I'm wrong, but I like to think I'm right, because every time I try and think of a car to replace the BMW, I sit there and think, what can it replace? And I think this is a close contender to it, because it does things a little bit better. It's a lot more refined, especially with the handling side of things. But you then outweigh the cost, and as I come back to, would you buy an RS? Would you still buy an RS version of this over an S? Personally, no, I wouldn't. I'd stick to this, to be fair. And you can't use the extra amount of power on UK roads, or any roads in fact, because you'd get locked up in prison, and yeah, you'd never see the light of day again. So yeah, it's a very interesting and complex question to answer. And of course, if I had the money, I would probably buy the RS hands down, but I don't, and I live in the real world. And yeah, that is pretty much it. There's not much more to cover on that. And as I said about 10 minutes ago, I wanted to keep this video short and sweet, and here we are, still waffling. So I'd like to end the video here. I'd like to say a big thank you to Audi once again for supporting me on the channel. Of course, getting this car, it has to be the most expensive press car I've ever had on this channel, and the most lovely as well. And I've had lots of lovely press cars, but yeah, this is just a step up from the BMW. It really is. And yeah, of course, it's a lot more money than BMW. Yeah, there's no argument in that. But yeah, if you've liked this video, please do leave a like, smash that subscribe button. I really do appreciate the support, of course. And yeah, please leave some comments below. What do you think? Do you think I'm right about, would you rather have this over an RS version? yeah, everyone's got their own opinion, so it's great to hear it. And until then, take care, and I will see you guys very soon. All the best.